Okay, good morning, everybody. So, how's everybody? I hope all of you are doing well. Okay, I see that we are at 127 right now. So, I'm assuming 100 more people will be joining us in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Morning, good morning, Anusha. I'm good here. What about you? One second, guys. Just give me a minute. I'm good, Shreya. Thank you very much for asking. I hope you're also doing well. Right. So, how is everything there in Karnataka here? Just give me a quick update. In the meantime, I'll set up my device. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Just give me a minute. Dhanush, am I back in Hubli? No, not yet. I'm not yet back in Hubli, but I have booked my flight tickets. So I should be back in Hubli in 1 week. In 1 week. My flight is on Monday evening. So unless my flight gets cancelled, I should be back in Hubli on Monday. So let's hope that everything falls in my favor. Eid Mubarak Sneha. Okay. And yeah, so I'm not yet back in Hubli, but I should be back next week. Sheikh, yeah, I know. So as I said previously also, yeah, that the coronavirus cases will keep on going up, at least for the foreseeable future, for the next few weeks and at least for the next couple of months. The coronavirus cases will keep on increasing, okay, because the virus will be there as long as we do not find a vaccine here, and we do not know when are we going to find the vaccine for this. So the only thing is that we should take our precautions. Thank you very much, Pritish. I will take care. Okay, I will try my best not to get infected. Do you have any idea on when the college will open? So to be honest, I don't have any idea, but if I have to guess, I would say August. Yeah, that sounds like a fair bet. Okay, but in some states where there have been very few cases, they're opening next month itself. For example, I think Tripura is opening on 15th of June. Okay. Okay. Ankita, so they are doing quarantine if you're coming from Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, right? But since I'm from Punjab, Punjab is not on that list. So I'll be allowed to go home. Right? So I can safely come home. Done? Okay. Any other questions? Because I just need 2 more lectures to wrap this chapter up, right? So today and tomorrow I'll finish up the chapter. Problem solving I'll do once you guys are done with your MT6, because I know none of you are studying these chapters. So I'll conduct problem solving for the first 2 chapters after MT6. Is virus dead cell? Yeah, virus is neither living nor dead yet. When it is outside the host body, it acts as a dead organism because it does not reproduce. But once it is inside the host organism, then it utilizes the machinery of the host cells to replicate. Then there is no class on Tuesday. Why wouldn't there be a class on Tuesday? Yeah? Your schedule will be fixed: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Next Tuesday you might not have class because I'll be traveling. But in general, you will have class from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So next Tuesday you guys might not have class. You guys might have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, we'll see how everything pans out, because I'll be reaching Bangalore on Tuesday night. Then I have a flight or train on Wednesday. So depending on which one I take, I will be back on Tuesday afternoon in Hubli. Sir, you are in flight. I'll be on flight in Tuesday evening, Monday evening. I have a flight from Amritsar at 4 o'clock, right? And I'll be reaching Bangalore at 7:30 if I'm not wrong, right? So some paperwork will take time. Then next morning I have another flight. Okay. Morning, Kirtan. So anything else that you guys would like to, because I have some time, okay, because we are not left with a lot of topic. Okay, only 2 topics are left, seed and fruit, right? So yeah, Shashwat, I can take class from flight. Technically I can't do that because my flight will be at 1 o'clock, I think, if I remember correctly. The flight from Bangalore to Hubli is at 1 o'clock, and our class gets over at 12:45. So if I want, I can take a class from the airport. Let's see. Okay, if there's not a lot of rush, then I'll take a class from the airport, right? I'll show everybody how dedicated of a teacher I am. No, Kirtan, I did not. Okay, which new ID, Anand? Because I just clicked on the link that was given in the description. I was not aware of a new ID. Okay, I'll just check with Pradeep once and I'll let you guys. Chalo, okay, okay, fair. I hope that's enough chit chat for the day so that we can start with the class. Okay, so what were we doing? Thank you very much, Afri. So what were we doing? We were doing sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Today is lecture 7. Tomorrow will be your lecture 8, and with that we'll end the chapter. Okay, technically I was supposed to finish it in 10 classes, but despite all our efforts, you know, we are finishing it up in 8 lectures. I'll dedicate 1 lecture to your problem solving after your MT6. So on Thursday, I'll be starting with your 3rd chapter, which is sexual reproduction in human beings, or reproduction in human beings, because human beings only show sexual reproduction. So that is what we'll be starting with on Thursday. Okay, start correct. So let's just do a brief recap of what we did in the last class. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, so if we talk about last class, Ravi Shankar, could you please elaborate? I am failing to understand your question. So if you could just explain your question a bit more, I'll tell you. So in the last class, we started with your endosperm, right? We talked about endosperm. What is endosperm? How is it made? What is the process that goes in endosperm? Then we talked about different types of endosperm. We talked about nuclear endosperm, cellular endosperm, and halobial endosperm, right? And after that, after talking about those 3 types of endosperm and what is the difference between them, then we looked at embryogeny. That is, how does the formation of embryo takes place. Okay, Rohan is asking why yesterday was holiday, because beta yesterday there was Eid, so that is why yesterday was holiday. So what did we do after talking about endosperm? We talked about how does the development of an embryo takes place, right? So that process is known as embryogeny. We looked at embryogeny in dicots, and I briefly explained how embryogeny in monocots differs from embryogeny in dicots, right? And in the last topic of the day, we looked at a dicot seed, right? We talked about cotyledons, the embryonal axis, the epicotyle, hypocotyle, plumule, radicle, and so on. Okay, so that is what we talked about in our previous class. Now today, what we are going to do is, today we are going to start with monocot seeds, and after that we'll be talking about seeds in general, right? What are the properties of seeds? Why are they important? What is the structure of a seed in general? And that's about it. Okay, I'll start fruit tomorrow, and then we'll wrap up the chapter. Okay, just give me a minute, guys. Okay, okay. So let's start with your revision question. Today I have 3 revision questions here. Okay, since I have more time on my hand. Okay, so today I have 3 revision questions. The first one is right on your screen. Milky water of green coconut is what? That is what the question is. That is what the question is. Okay, milky water of green coconut is what? Okay, so your options are liquid chalaza, liquid nucellus, liquid endosperm, liquid female gametophyte. Those are the options that you guys have on your screen. Okay, so poll aja jaldi se. This is a simple question, straightforward. Okay, let's have a quick poll on this one. Okay, the 3 questions that I have, they are of 3 different difficulty level. Okay, this is the easiest question. This is the easiest question. I wanted to start with the easiest question so that tum sabka morale badh jaye. Okay, before I bring you guys down, you know, it's very important to have confidence in yourself. Okay, get your votes in, people. So for 52% have voted. Simple sa question hai. I mentioned this repeatedly in my previous class also. Notes till the 6th lecture are there in the drive. Please download the notes. Okay, notes have been updated in the last class. Please download it from there. Okay, you can take a printout. You can keep it in your iPad, laptop, phone, whatever it is that you have. But make sure that you download and study from there. Okay, the reason why I'm uploading the notes is that so that you don't have the need to write the notes on your own. Okay, and save time in writing. Okay, 70% of you have voted. 10 seconds and I'll close the poll. Get your votes in, beta. Negative marking to hai nahi. So get your votes in. And I hope all of you are studying for your MT6 this weekend. Okay, so I'll be going through the paper most probably by today or tomorrow, and then I'll give you some tips based on once I get the look of the paper, what kind of paper it is. Okay, chalo, 3, 2, 1, and I will stop. Let's stop. Okay, so 77% of you voted. Beta, please vote. Okay, simple sa question tha. So the question was, okay, milky water of green coconut is what? Okay, the milky water of green coconut, if you remember my last class, I specifically mentioned that it is liquid endosperm, which 77% you have selected, and that is absolutely correct. Okay, so the correct option there is liquid endosperm. Chalo, let's get the next question then. Okay, assertion and reasoning based question. Love these questions. So the question is, assertion is the suspensor serves as the main nutritive tissue of the embryo during embryo development in dicots. The last cell of the suspensor at the end, adjacent to the embryo, is known as haustorium. Okay, your options are the 4 standard options in assertion and reasoning based question. Option 1 is assertion and reason is correct, and reason is the correct explanation of the assertion. Assertion and reason are correct, but reason does not explain the assertion. Then you have assertion is true, but reason is false, and D, both of them are false. I will read the assertion and the reason again, then I'll throw up the poll. So, what is the assertion? The suspensor serves as the main nutritive tissue for the embryo during embryo development in dicot. Last cell of the suspensor at the end, adjacent to the embryo, is known as haustorium. Okay, so let's have a quick poll then. Let's get it out of the way soon. Again, if you remember last class, should be a piece of cake for you. Because if you listen to each and every class of mine, all these questions should be a piece of cake for you. Okay, get your votes in, people. 29% of you have voted so far. Okay, आगे बढ़े फिर. Get your votes in. Only 39% of you have voted. You guys are taking an awful lot of time, man. What's going on? What's going on? Divya, so as I said that, you know, these notes, okay, these notes you can download it from the drive, you can take a printout, and then you can, you know, scribble on them, write on them based on your needs. Okay, it's not mandatory to write notes, at least from you know, your competitive point of view. From boards, for boards, yes, then notes are necessary. Okay, 10 seconds and I'll wrap up the polling. Only 55% of you have voted. Get your votes in, guys. What are you guys waiting for? Get your votes in. Okay, so okay, I'll close the poll then. 3, 2, 1, and I will stop. Okay, so I see that 60% of you voted, so that shows a lack of confidence in this type of question. Okay, so because obviously most of you are not comfortable with the assertion and reasoning question, that is why I try my best always to include one assertion and reasoning based question. Chalo, let's see. Let's look at this. Okay, let's look at this question. Now, the first is the suspensor serves as the main nutritive tissue of the embryo during embryo development in dicot. So as I said that, the first thing in assertion and reasoning based question that you're supposed to do is you're supposed to check whether both these statements are true or not. Whether both these statements are true or not. So to be honest, after looking at your reply, okay, I'll share your results with you. I'll share your results with you. So 59% of you went with B, 16% with C, 16% with D, and 9% with A. It's really sad to see that only 16% of you got the correct answer. And the correct answer here is beta. The correct answer here is D. The correct answer here is D. Dekho, again, it shows that you guys are not paying attention in the lecture, or maybe you guys are not listening to the lecture carefully, or maybe you guys do not remember. It could be any one of those. The suspensor serves as the main nutritive tissue. This is wrong. Suspensor does not serve as the main nutritive tissue. The endosperm serves as the main nutritive tissue. Okay, so this is wrong. Suspensor does not serve as the main nutritive tissue. The function of suspensor is to push the embryo into the endosperm. Okay, so the first statement is wrong, and as soon as the assertion gets wrong, your other three options are no longer valid, because in all the other three options, assertion is always true. But even if you look at the second statement, the last cell of the suspensor at the end of the embryo is called haustorium. That is also wrong. The last cell is known as hypophysis. ये मैं बताया था, right? The last cell is known as hypophysis, right? The last cell is known as hypophysis. The first cell is known as haustorium. Okay, and your hypophysis gives rise to radicle, which is your root tip, and your haustorium gives rise to your shoot apex or shoot tip. So this is wrong. So in this case, both these statements are wrong. I'm surprised to see that majority of you went with B. Beta ऐसे नहीं कर सकते. Remember what I am teaching in the previous class. It's very important. Okay. The first suspensor of function में कितनी बार बताया था? Suspensor grows and pushes the embryo deeper into the endosperm, right? And the second one is the first cell is haustorium, and the last cell, which is adjacent to the embryo, is hypophysis. Haustorium gives rise to your shoot apex. Your hypophysis gives rise to your root apex, right? बताया था, फिर भी भूल जाते हो. Hey Ram, चलो. Let's move to the next question. Chalo, abhi right now I'm giving you guys a pass, okay? Because you guys, I hope you guys are busy with your MT6. That's why you guys are getting all these questions wrong. But after this Sunday, you guys will not get any clean pass for it. Okay, let's get the next question. The next question is ploidy level of nucellus, endosperm, polar nuclei, megaspore mother cell, female gametophyte are what? That is what the question is. Okay. That is what the question is. What is the ploidy of nucellus, endosperm, polar nuclei, megaspore mother cell, female gametophyte? Okay, those are the options, and your options are on your screen. For these 5 things, for these 5 parts, I need to know what is their ploidy level. Okay, dekh lo, in 10 seconds, I'll throw up the poll. In 10 seconds, I'll throw up the poll. Okay, in 10 seconds, I'll throw up the poll. So this question was asked in AIMS 2017, if I'm not wrong. AIMS 2017 or 2018. One of those years it was asked. Okay. So those of you who might have dreams, I don't know how many of you really have dreams of getting into AIMS. Okay, then let's see, right? Simple. All this information is given in your textbook. All this information is also given in my notes. The only thing is that the information is spread out. So what the question is asking, can you collate all that together? Can you make a big picture out of all the information that you have accumulated in the chapter so far? Okay. All this is given in your textbook also. All this is given in my notes also. Chalo, let's have a poll then. Let's have a poll. Dekh leta beta. Okay. Question was asked in AIMS 2017. Let's see how many of you would have got this correct if you would have written this in AIMS, if you have written the AIMS exam in 2017. And since from this year onwards, AIMS and NEET are combined, you will get questions like these. Technical questions which will test your application of the knowledge. Questions which will require you to combine all the information at one particular place. Okay. 41% of you have voted so far. Ghabrao mat beta, just because it's an AIM question, textbook se hi hai, notes se hi hai. If you have studied properly, aa jayega. There's nothing stopping you from getting this correct. Okay, 53% of you have voted so far. People, get your votes in. 10 seconds and I'll close the poll. 10 seconds and I'll close the poll. There are 100 people who have not yet voted. Oh my God. What are you guys doing? Okay, tukka maar do yaar. Kya? It's okay. You learn from your mistakes. Okay, agar option maroge, wrong ho jayega, you'll remember that sir asked this question in the class, I got it wrong. So this is the correct answer. If you never attempt it, you will never know what you got wrong, and then you will never remember. Right? So it's okay to commit mistake at this point of time. Chalo. Okay, so 5 seconds and I'll close the poll. 5 seconds and I'll close the poll. Check it. 3, 2, 1, and I will stop. Let's see. Okay, so there are 60 people who did not vote. I'm very disappointed in those 60 people. Get your votes in, people. Why are you guys hesitant? Why are you guys hesitant to get your votes in? Chalo, let me show you your results. Let me show you your results. So 35% of you think it's D, 23% of you think it's C, 24% of you think it's B, and only 18% of you think it's A. Okay, that is only 32 people believe it's A, 60 people believe it's D. And I am very sorry to tell you guys that the correct option is A. So that means the option that the fewest number of people selected is the one that's correct. Okay, so देखो बेटा, Nucellus is diploid. Nucellus is diploid because Nucellus at no point shows meiosis. So Nucellus is diploid. Endosperm, fusion of 3 nuclei. So N plus N plus N, that is your 3N. Polar nuclei are a result of meiosis. So N. Megaspore mother cell gives rise to your megaspore. So it is obviously 2N, and female gametophyte will obviously be haploid, which is N. So the correct option is A. 2N, 3N, N, 2N, and N. So congratulations, okay, to those 32 people who got this correct. Okay, very good, Pritish. So these are the kind of questions that if you have high aspirations of getting into a very good medical college, these are the kind of questions that you will be expected to nail on a regular basis. Okay, just to show you guys what the future holds for you guys. Chalo, aage badhe fir. Okay, so those were your 3 revision questions for the day. Let's not waste any more time. So what very good, Pushpa. Okay, so what are we going to do today? So in last class we stopped at your dicot seeds. Okay, dicot seeds. So in dicot seeds we talked about your two cotyledons are present. Obviously there's an embryonal axis. Okay, the upper portion of the embryonal axis is known as epicotyle, which terminates into a plumule, and the bottom region of a cotyledon is known as hypocotyle, which terminates into a radicle. Okay, and the radicle has a root cap, which is also known as calyptra. Okay, so I hope this is where we stop. So today we'll be starting with your monocot seeds. Okay, and in some sense it is similar to dicot seed, except for one key thing, that there is only one cotyledon, right? So let's look at your monocot seeds. Okay, again, at any point if you cannot understand anything, you are free to let me know. Okay, you are free to let me know. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, so let's start with your embryo in monocots. Let's start with your embryo in monocot. What does the embryo in a monocot look like? Okay, so obviously the first statement, embryo of monocot have only one cotyledon. Embryo of a monocot have only one cotyledon. Prajwal, yes, you can refer these notes for boards also. Just skip some of those topics which are not given in the textbook. So when you're studying from these notes for your boards, just make sure that you skip certain things. Okay, just match with your textbook. Whatever is given in my notes which is not given in your textbook, you can skip that part. Okay, because that will never be asked in the boards. Anyway, so embryo of monocotyledon have only one cotyledon. Obviously, that is why they are called monocotyledons, because mono means one. Okay, so they have one cotyledon. Now, in grass family, that is Germinae, this cotyledon is called scutellum. Okay, so this question has been asked before also, that what is the cotyledon of grass family known as? The cotyledon of the grass family is known as scutellum. So as you can see here, this is your cotyledon, and since this is an embryo of the grass family, the cotyledon is known as scutellum. The cotyledon is known as scutellum. Okay, and it is situated towards the lateral side of the embryonal axis. What does that mean? So this is your embryonal axis. So it is on the lateral side. Lateral side means what? It is to the side. Okay, it is to the side. So if you remember your embryo and dicot, okay, the embryonal axis was in the middle and there were two cotyledons on either side. Here, the cotyledon is on the lateral side of the embryonal axis. The cotyledon is on the lateral side of the embryonal axis. What is embryonal axis? Embryonal axis gives you the direction of the plant. That is, this is the direction in which the shoot should come out from. This is the direction in which the root should come out from. Okay, okay. One second. Okay, so the embryo in monocotyledon consists of only one cotyledon, and in grass family, this is known as scutellum. The cotyledon is known as scutellum, and it is situated on the side of the embryonal axis, that is to the lateral side. Okay, chalo, आगे बढ़ते हैं फिर. Now, The axis matlab embryonal axis. We are talking about embryonal axis. The embryonal axis at its lower end has radicle and root cap. As you can see, on its lower end, the embryonal axis has radicle and root cap, enclosed in a sheath called coleorhiza. Remember this, that the sheath that encloses the radicle and root cap in embryo in monocot is known as coleorhiza. Okay, so the embryonal axis at its lower end contains radicle and root cap, and it is enclosed in a sheath. Which is known as coleorhiza. The part of the axis, again axis means your embryonal axis. The part of the axis above the level of attachment of scutellum is called epicotyle. So this is your attachment point of the cotyledon to the embryonal axis. So the part above it is known as epicotyle. So this entire portion is your epicotyle. Okay? So the part of the embryonal axis that is above the place of attachment, where the cotyledon attaches with the embryonal axis, is called epicotyle. And what does epicotyle contains? The epicotyle contains shoot apex, which is here. Okay, one second, let me just erase this circle to avoid confusion. Okay, so what does your epicotyle contain? Your epicotyle contains a shoot apex, okay, and a few leaf primordia. What are leaf primordia? So leaf primordia are the tissue which are responsible for giving rise to your leaves. Okay, and the leaf primordia is enclosed in a hollow structure called coleoptile. So this is coleoptile, and this encloses your shoot apex and your leaf primordia. Okay, so the covering of your radicle and root cap is known as coleorhiza. The covering of your shoot apex and the leaf primordia is known as coleoptile. Okay, your hypocotyle, this is your hypocotyle. So your hypocotyle is at the bottom of the embryonal axis, and your epicotyle is above the place of the attachment of the cotyledon and the embryonal axis. Your hypocotyle contains radicle and root cap, same as your hypocotyle of the dicot. The only difference is that the radicle and root cap is covered by a sheath known as coleorhiza. And your epicotyle consists of your shoot apex, same as your dicot embryo. The only again difference here is that the shoot apex and the leaf primordia, are again enclosed by a hollow structure which is known as coleoptile. Yahan tak sabko clear hua? Is this clear to everybody? So far so good. Give me a yes or no. Beta. Is this clear to everybody? Just give me a quick yes or no so that I can move forward. Okay, no doubts. Aage badhe fir. Shall we move forward then? Chalo. No doubts from anybody. Nobody wants me to repeat anything. So let's move forward then. Sure. So that was your embryo in dicot, which we did in previous class, and what we studied today, embryo in monocots. Anushri, you want me to repeat the last line again? The last line kuch nahi hai. The epicotyle consists of your coleoptile. Okay, okay. So and your shoot apex. Coleoptile is the covering which covers your shoot apex, and leaf primordia. Okay, leaf primordia are the tissue which are responsible for giving rise to leaves once the seed starts germinating. Okay, so that is what your epicotyle consists of, and coleoptile is the covering of the leaf primordia and the shoot apex. Okay, aage badhe fir. Chalo. Now let's talk about seeds in general. Okay, so in angiosperms, the seed is the final product of sexual reproduction, right? So at the end of sexual reproduction, what do you get? You get a seed. Just like at the end of a sexual reproduction in human beings, you get a baby. In angiosperms, you get a seed. Seeds are formed inside fruits. Makes sense? Nothing complicated here. Seeds are present inside fruits. And what does a seed consist of? A seed typically consists of seed coat, cotyledon, and an embryo axis, right? So the S is in the bracket because there could be a single seed coat also. there could be double seed coat also. There's a S in the bracket next to cotyledon because there could be a single cotyledon also in case of monocots, or there could be two cotyledons also in the case of dicotyledons. So seed is the final product at the end of sexual reproduction in angiosperms. They are present inside fruit and they usually consist of seed coat, cotyledon and an embryonal axis. Okay? Nothing complicated here. So let's look at the next one then. Now, the endosperm. Okay, we all know what is the function of endosperm. Endosperm provides nourishment to the growing embryo. Endosperm provides nourishment to the growing embryo. So when the embryo is growing, it utilizes the nutrients from the endosperm to grow. And as a result, what happens is, with the growth of embryo, the central part of the endosperm is eaten up. With the growth of the embryo, the endosperm keeps getting eaten up. The endosperm keeps getting depleted, right? Because unlimited endosperm to hota nahi. There's a limited amount of endosperm, and if you keep using it to develop yourself, obviously the endosperm will keep thinning, and endosperm in turn corrodes over the nucellus. What does this statement mean? This statement means that as a result, the endosperm extinguishes. Corrodes matlab what? It ceases to exist. Okay, it no longer exists. But in some seeds, the endosperm persists in the seed as food storage tissue. Okay, so in most of the cases, what happens is when the embryo is developing, it utilizes the endosperm to grow. But in some seeds, what happens is the embryo does not completely utilize the endosperm. The embryo does not completely utilize the endosperm. And the endosperm is then used as a food storage tissue. And those seeds in which endosperm remains even after development of the embryo, those seeds are called endospermic or albuminous seeds. So what are albuminous seeds? Albuminous seeds are those seeds which contain endosperm even after development of the embryo. Examples yaad rakh lena: castor, maize, wheat, barley, rubber, coconut. So here I have a castor seed. As you can see, in castor seed, endosperm is remaining. Endosperm is remaining despite the fact that the embryo has completely matured. Okay, so castor seed. So this is an example of endospermic seed or albuminous seed. I'll repeat the entire slide again. So we know that the function of the endosperm is to provide nourishment to the growing embryo. Okay, as the embryo goes, obviously since it is eating away at the endosperm will keep on depleting. In some cases, it depletes completely. In some cases, it remains. In those seeds in which the endosperm remains even after embryo maturation, those seeds are known as endospermic or albuminous seeds. Okay, examples are castor, maize, wheat, barley, rubber, coconut, etc. And this endosperm is used for food storage. And in albuminous seed or endospermic seed, the cotyledons are not that thick, because the function of cotyledon is also the same, right? That is provide nourishment to the seed when the seed is germinating. But since albuminous seed contain endosperm also, in albuminous seed the cotyledon is not that prominent because they have endosperm along with the cotyledon. Ye sabko samjha kya beta? Give me a yes or no. Is albuminous or endospermic seed clear to everybody? Third point, beta third point kya hai? Endosperm in turn corrodes over the nucleus. Matlab kya hai? It starts depleting. Initially, if it is this thick, okay, it will keep on depleting. This is what is the meaning of corrosion. Okay, is this clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. Is albuminous or endospermic seed clear to everybody? Okay, Namrata, I hope I answered your question. Aage badhe fir? Shall we move forward? Sure. Let's move forward then. Now, in other seeds, the endosperm is completely eaten up by growing embryo. So as I said, in some seeds, the growing embryo leaves some endosperm behind. But in other seeds, the endosperm is completely eaten up by the growing embryo. ठीक है ना? So what happens is the food for later development of embryo is then stored in cotyledons, which become massive. So as I said, in albuminous seed, the cotyledons are not that well developed, or they are not that thick or big. Why? Because the reason for that is they contain endosperm also. So endosperm भी nourishment provide कर सकता है along with cotyledon. But since in this type of seeds, there is no endosperm. So the seed completely depends on your cotyledon for its nourishment when it is germinating. That is what the second point means, that the food for later development of embryo is then stored in cotyledons, which become massive. And why do they become massive? Because apart from cotyledon, they do not have any other source of nourishment. In albuminous seed, cotyledon to hai hi hai. On top of that, there is endosperm also. So the cotyledons are not that well developed or thick. Okay? And these type of seeds in which endosperm is completely eaten away, these type of seeds are known as non-endospermic or ex-albuminous seeds. Examples are pea, gram, bean, groundnut. Okay? So as you can see in this bean seed, there is no site of endosperm because endosperm has been completely eaten up. So bean seed is an example of endospermic or ex-albuminous seed. So is ex-albuminous seed or non-endospermic seed clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. Sabko samjha kya? What? So they can ask you a question, right? They can ask you a question. Okay. Repeat the first point again. Beta, first point kya bol raha hai? The endosperm is completely eaten up by the growing embryo. We know that when the embryo is growing, it derives its nourishment from the endosperm. So in some seeds, it completely eats up the endosperm. So since it completely eats up the endosperm, there is no endosperm left. That is what the first point means. Okay? Okay. So is this clear to everybody, beta? Ye sabko samjha? Okay, shall we move forward then? Okay, let's move forward then. Okay? Okay. Now, Tarun, just stay back after the class and we'll have a discussion on that. Okay? So let's move forward then. So we have learned what are albuminous seed and what are non-albuminous seed. So Pushpa, the reason why I show the diagram is so that it becomes easier for you guys to picture, because if I do not show the diagram, then it will be just theory and you guys will fail to visualize what is the difference between an endospermic seed and a non-endospermic seed. That is why I have diagram. Okay, if you're asking from the board's point of view, only diagrams that are given in your textbook will be asked. Okay, and in NEET also they will ask diagrams only from the textbook, right? The reason why I show all these extra diagram is so that you can visualize, right? कि वो है क्या चीज, दिखता कैसा है, right? Otherwise it will be just theory. तुम्हें फिर रट्टा मारना पड़ेगा. If you see it, if you know what the difference looks like, then you can, you have less stuff to remember. That is why I show all these extra diagrams. Okay, chalo. Now, in some seeds, remains of nucellus persist. Right? I hope all of you remember nucellus. Nucellus is present outside the megaspore mother cell. Right? And the function of nucellus was to provide nourishment to the megaspore mother cell. Right? So, in some seeds, what happens is the nucellus persists. That is, even after fertilization, development of the embryo, everything, the nucellus still persists. Okay? And the residual nucellus which persists is called perisperm. Example is black pepper and coffee. On the next slide, there's a diagram in which you'll see what perisperm looks like. The diagram was a bit big, it was not fitting here, so it's on the next slide. Okay, so if you remember nucellus, function of the nucellus was to provide nourishment to the megaspore mother cell. Now, after fertilization, embryo bhi develop ho gaya, seed bhi develop ho gaya. In some cases, nucellus still remains. Technically, it shouldn't because its function is over, but it still remains. And the persistent nucellus is known as perisperm. Example yaad rakh lena, black pepper and coffee. In black pepper and coffee seeds, we see perisperm. Okay? Now, next, what happens is the cells of the integuments. Okay, how many integument does an ovule have here? How many integument does it have? Who will tell me how many integuments does it have? How many integuments usually does an ovule have? How many integuments does an ovule usually have? So an integument usually have one or two. So an ovule usually has one or two integuments. In some very rare cases, you will see three integuments, but usually you see 1 to 2 integuments. So what happens to the integuments after embryo formation? The integuments lose their protoplasm, develop thick and impermeable walls. Develop thick and impermeable walls. And these integuments get transformed into seed coats. Since there are usually two integuments, the outer integument becomes testa, the inner integument becomes tegmen. Yaad rakhna, theek hai? So if we zoom into this figure, you can see that the inner one is tegmen and the outer one is testa. Okay, so that is known as your seed coat. So what did we learn in this particular slide? We learned that in some seeds, the nucellus persist. The nucellus persists. Okay, the nucellus persists even after your development of the embryo. In some cases, okay, and in those cases, the nucellus that persists is known as perisperm. Okay, and the integuments whose function was to protect the megaspore mother cell. Those integuments lose their protoplasm, develop thick and impermeable walls, and hence they get transformed into seed coat. The inner seed coat is known as tegmen. The outer seed coat is known as testa. Okay? Is this clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. Sabko samjha kya? What is perisperm and what are testa and tegmen? Sabko yaad rahega? Okay? Because they can ask you, right? What is the origin of perisperm? Nucellus. What is the origin of testa? Outer integument. What is the origin of tegmen? Inner integument. So you guys need to remember all this. ठीक है ना? सबको समझा? आगे बढ़े? Okay, let's move forward then. So this is your coffee fruit. Okay, this is your coffee fruit. So I hope all of you know what is pericarp, right? Pericarp is the outer fruit. Okay, let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the brown thing, which is your seed. Okay, so as you can see, that just outside the endosperm there is a thin layer of perisperm, which is your remnant nucellus, because we know that your nucellus is present outside your female gametophyte, right? And we know that your endosperm and the embryo are formed within the female gametophyte. So that is why perisperm is present outside your endosperm, because if you remember the structure of an ovule, the nucellus was also outside the megaspore mother cell. And we know that megaspore mother cell gives rise to embryo sac, and embryo sac on fertilization gives rise to your embryo. So your perisperm is present outside the embryo and the endosperm, and the perisperm is nothing but remnant nucellus. You want me to explain the last 2 points? But thoda sa jaldi bola. I don't have any issue with you asking me to repeat it again, but just tell me a bit faster, because fir kya hota hai, I move on and a flow break ho jata hai. Okay, so Prajwal, that was your coffee seed. The outer portion, the pericarp, was your fruit region. Okay, which we'll study tomorrow. Fruit we'll study tomorrow. So the outer portion, pericarp, which was your fruit, the inner brown portion was your seed, and the thin green layer around the seed was your perisperm, that was remnant nucellus. Okay, Rate, dekho. So if you remember your diagram of the ovule, there was your embryo sac in the middle, the nucellus. Okay, there was your embryo sac in the middle, then you had your nucellus, and then you had integuments, right? Then you had integuments like this, right? Then you had integuments like this, and the function of these integuments was to protect your embryo sac. So what are the second and third points saying? They are saying that these integuments, they lose their protoplasm. That is, they lose their cytoplasm and turn into thick and impermeable wall. Impermeable wall means what? Nothing can cross them anymore. And the outer integument becomes your testa, the inner integument becomes your tegment. That is what the last point means. I hope Rathe, doubt is clear to you. Okay? Okay. Chalo. Let's move forward then. Sorry. Okay. Now, let's talk about seed bit more. Now, the micropyle remains as a small pore in the seed coat. So if you remember, there was a micropylar end, there was a chalazal end. Micropylar end had a hole which was known as micropyle. So in seeds, the micropyle remains. Okay, a micropyle remains. Okay. Now, why does it remain? This facilitates entry of oxygen and water into seed during germination. So when the seed is germinating, it needs to respire. Okay, and during respiration, it requires oxygen. It also requires water to germinate. So the micropyle which remains in the seed coat as a small pore, which if you look here is mentioned here. Okay, so its function is to allow the passage of oxygen and water into the seed. Okay, now as the seed matures, its water content is reduced and the seeds become relatively dry. Remember, 10 to 15% moisture by mass. Okay, na? So yaad rakhna that the moisture is 10 to 15% of the mass. That is, if a seed weighs hypothetically 100 grams, which is way too much for a seed. If a seed weighs 100 grams, that means it will contain 10 to 15 grams of water. Okay, depending on what type of seed it is. So as the seed matures, it becomes dry. Can anybody tell me why does the seed become dry? Why does the seed become dry once it matures? Can anybody tell me why does the seed become dry when it matures? In the meantime, I'll explain the entire slide again so that if any of you might have missed out on it, it will help you recap. So the micropyle, the hole that was at the top of the ovule, okay, so that remains in the seed coat. That remains in the seed coat. And why does it remain? It remains so that the oxygen and the water can enter into the seed. Okay, enter into the seed during germination. Okay, and as the seed matures, its water content reduces, and the seeds become relatively dry. The reason they become relatively dry is so that they can survive for a longer period of time. Okay, so that they can survive for a longer period of time. That is why it dries out. So that it can again be regrown when the conditions are suitable. Okay, is this slide clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. Is this clear to everybody? Aunga beta, Uday, I'll come to dormancy. Why do you worry? I'll come to it. Do not worry. Is this slide clear to everybody? Aage badhe fir. Okay, shall I move forward then? Okay, chalo, I'll move forward then since nobody has any issues. Now, we know that once the embryo has matured completely, once the seed has developed, okay, the general metabolic activity of the embryo slows down. Okay, I'll tell you, Kirtan, do not worry, I'll tell you. Okay, so what happens is once the seed is fully developed, the metabolic activity of the embryo slows down. And what happens is the embryo may enter a state of inactivity called dormancy. Right? So seed dormancy allows the seed to weather harsh conditions and regrow once the conditions are favorable. Or if the conditions are favorable right from the beginning, then if favorable conditions are available, then they germinate. Okay? So once the seed has developed, the metabolic activity of the embryo slows down. Then depending on whether the conditions are favorable or not, if the conditions are favorable, it will immediately germinate. If the conditions are not favorable, then what will happen is that then it will undergo a state of dormancy. So that it can weather the harsh conditions and germinate once the conditions are suitable. So what happens in dormancy? So you guys might be aware of bear hibernating, right? Where bear, what they do is that they sleep and they conserve their energy. So their body burns very few calories. As a result of that, they do not require food. They do not require food. Same thing happens in seed also. Seed will reduce its metabolic activity drastically. Why would it do that? It would do that so that it does not end up consuming the food content in the cotyledon, because it would require that when it has to germinate, right? अगर वो अपने survival में ही सारा utilize कर लेगा, so when the conditions are favorable, then it will not grow, right? Because germination के लिए भी तो energy चाहिए. So that is why when the conditions are not favorable, what it does is it reduces its metabolic activity completely, so that it is not utilizing a lot of energy. As a result of that, the food reserve in the cotyledon is not being used too much. So that is what we mean by dormancy, and that is why dormancy takes place. Is dormancy in seed clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. Is dormancy in seed clear to everybody? सबको समझा क्या? Dormancy in seed. No, Dhanish, no. आगे बढ़े फिर? Shall we move forward then? Okay, ठीक है? Let's move forward. Now, but seeds cannot undergo dormancy for a very prolonged period of time, because then seeds will lose their ability to germinate. And that is known as viability of seeds. That is known as what? That is known as viability of seeds. So what is viability of seeds? Viability of seeds is the ability to retain the power of germination over a period of time. And that is known as viability of seed. So if the seed undergoes dormancy, okay, how long can the seed retain the ability to germinate? That is known as viability of seed. That is known as what? Viability of seed. Now, the viability may range from few weeks to several years. Okay, some seeds, they have a viability of only few weeks, while some seeds have been found to be viable for hundreds of years. So depending on what species, what genus, what family you're talking about, the viability of the seeds can range from few weeks to several hundred years. And what is this based on? So this is based on conditions during storage and non-germination. So if you keep the seeds in proper conditions, then they will remain viable for a longer period of time. But if you keep the seeds in harsh conditions, when they are not germinating, then they will lose their viability very quickly. So the viability is affected by how the seeds are stored and in what conditions they are stored. Okay, if they are stored in excessive dry or damp weather and high temperature, then they lose their viability. Then their viability becomes very less. So in excessive dry conditions, in damp weather means when the moisture content is very high, or at high temperature, the viability of the seeds reduces drastically. So what is viability of the seeds? Viability of the seeds is the ability of the seed to retain its germination power over a period of time. It could last from few weeks to few hundred years, depending on which family, which genus does the plant belong to. Now within that, the viability also depends on what conditions are the seeds stored in. If the seeds are stored in excessive dry weather or damp weather or at high temperature, then the viability of the seeds will decrease. Is viability of seeds clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. Is viability of seeds clear to everybody? Give me a yes or no. Is viability of seeds clear to everybody? Give me a yes or no. क्लियर है सबको? आगे बढ़े फिर? चलो आगे बढ़ते फिर. Now, this is from your textbook. Extra information I have. Make sure you remember this. Okay. So some seeds can remain alive for hundreds of years. An example is, okay, the oldest one is of Lupinus Architectus. Okay, Lupinus Architectus, which was excavated from Arctic tundra. Okay, which was excavated from your Arctic circle. And it was observed that the seed germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. That is, they were dormant for 10,000 years. And still, after 10,000 years, they were able to germinate. They were able to germinate. And this is what Lupinus Architectus looks like. Okay, so if they ask you, what is the oldest living example? What is the oldest example, or which plant has the longest recorded viability of the seed? Remember the name Lupinus Architectus. Okay, and it was estimated that they could germinate despite being in dormancy for 10,000 years, and they were found in Arctic tundra. Again, this is given in your textbook, but there's a slight problem with this information. The problem with this information is, and this is very surprising, the problem with this information is that this information is fake. Actually, those seeds are not 10,000 years old. Okay, what happened was that the site got contaminated. Where the archaeologists were digging, the sites got contaminated by these seeds. These seeds were old. They were like few hundred years old. Right? But they were not 10,000 years old. So actually, these seeds are not 10,000 years old. Okay, but again, agar NEET mein question aaya, you will not become too intelligent and you will not say that all the options are wrong. Mohit sir told that there were no 10,000-year-old seeds. In your textbook, it clearly says that the oldest record of viability of seeds is of Lupinus Architectus, and they germinated despite the fact that the seeds were in dormancy for 10,000 years. Okay, so you will still go with this. I'm just telling you, as you know, an extra information that actually this information is false. But again, as I said in my first class also, your textbook, NCERT textbook, is your Bible. Whatever it says in the textbook, you go with that. So if by chance you get a question in NEET 2021, right, which of the following plant, okay, seeds of which of the following plant were able to germinate despite being in dormancy for 10,000 years, you will go with Lupinus Architectus. होशियार बन के question मत छोड़ के आना that this question is wrong, sir. Okay, that our teacher told us that this information is false. This information is false. Okay, but since your textbook does not state that, you will go with Lupinus Architectus. Is this clear to everybody? Beta, give me a yes or no. That was just an extra information, okay? Because I was googling it, because even I was surprised when I read this. So you know, I googled it up, and apparently it's not true. But obviously Indians are very lazy. We never bother to update the textbook, so that information is false. But अगर question आए exam में, बिना देखे Lupinus Architectus को tick मार देना. ठीक है? आगे बढ़े फिर. Done. This is one example that is given. There's one more example that is given. I'll show you that also. Okay. Now, there is an example in which the seed remained viable for 2,000 years. Okay. So 2,000 years old viable seed is of date palm, Phoenix dactylifera. Okay, which was discovered during archaeological excavation at King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea. So I hope all of you know Dead Sea. So Dead Sea is famous for its high salt content, right? It's called Dead Sea because it is so saline that very few life forms are found in it. That is why it's called Dead Sea, and you can float on Dead Sea, right? So near the Dead Sea, there was the palace of King Herod, and that is where during excavating his palace, they found the seeds of date palm, which were 2,000 years old, and they grew it, and as a result of that, they got this plant, and they named this plant Methuselah. And there's a reason why they named it also. I'll tell you why they named it. Okay, so this is the plant which they grew from those seeds that they got from King Herod's palace. Okay, and there's a reason why they got. Okay, and the interesting thing is that these date palm went extinct, and only because we found out those seeds from his palace, now we find these date palm trees again. And I'll show you what his palace looks like. This is what his palace looks like. This is what his palace looks like, and that is where they were digging, and that is where they found those seeds, right? And why is that plant called Mesula? Okay, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. I'll tell you what the reason is. Okay, there's an interesting article based on this, that the amazing date tree was grown from seed preserved since the time of Jesus. So it says that the seeds are older than Jesus. So we all know that Jesus is 2020 years old, right? And these seeds are actually like 2040 years old. And the reason why they called Mesula, because I think the grandfather of Jesus had the same name, or the father, I don't know. It's one of those two things. Okay, I think probably the grandfather. That is why that plant is called Mesula. Okay, so this information is correct, which is given in a textbook, and that is what the plant looks like. And that plant was grown from the seed that they directly excavated from the palace of King Herod, which is by the Dead Sea. Okay, and the seeds are older than Jesus. Now, whether Jesus existed or not, nobody knows, right? But those seeds, if Jesus existed, are older than Jesus also. Okay, so is this clear to everybody? Is this clear to everybody? Arey yaar Pritish, tum logic mat ghusa. How was grandfather only 20 years older? Naam diya hai bas, chinta mat karo. Okay, is this clear to everybody? Give me a yes or no. I hope that information was interesting to you guys. That some extra information. Again, it won't be asked in the exam here. It won't be asked in the exam. I'm just mentioning it so that you know. So his grandfather of Noah, I'm not sure. I don't know yet. Okay, he's grandfather of some biblical person. Okay, I think it's probably Jesus, but I don't know. I hope that you guys like that extra information. Again, पूछा नहीं जाएगा that you know is date palm figure older than Jesus or not. Just something you should know. Okay, chalo. No, Pranam, not grandfather of Herod, beta. Grandfather of Jesus was Mesula. That is why that plant is called Mesula. Okay, ठीक है? आगे बढ़े फिर? चलो. Let's move forward then. Now, viability of seeds. So we know that viability of seeds is the time period for which they retain their ability to germinate. Okay, na? But how do you check? How do you check? Beta, Herod is a real person. Herod is not a biblical character. Herod is a king who existed in real life. Anyway, so how do you check viability of seeds? Okay, so what we do is that we know that all viable seeds respire. All viable seeds respire, right? And we use this ability of seeds to determine whether those seeds are viable or not. For that, what we do is that we immerse the section of seed containing the embryo in 0.1 solution of triphenyl tetrazolium chloride. Okay, what we do is that we take a seed, okay, which contains an embryo, and we put it in 0.1 solution of triphenyl tetrazolium chloride. And what happens is the viable embryo will turn pink due to conversion of colorless triphenyl tetrazolium chloride into triphenyl formazan. So because of the ability of the seeds to respire, what it does is that it converts your triphenyl tetrazolium chloride into triphenyl formazan. So all these seeds that you see, the seeds that are red in color, those are viable seeds, while the seeds that are orangish or whitish seeds, those are no longer viable, or if you do put them in the soil, the chances of them germinating is very, very less. So that is how we check for viability of seeds. So what is the solution that we use? We use 0.1% triphenyl tetrazolium chloride, and the triphenyl tetrazolium chloride gets converted into triphenyl formazan, which gives it a pinkish reddish color. So the seeds that are viable, they turn pink or red, while the seeds that do not or attain very less pink or red color, those are no longer viable, or their viability has been drastically reduced. Okay? So is this clear to everybody? How do we check for viability of seeds? Is this clear to everybody? How do we check for viability of seeds? What we do is that we take a seed containing an embryo, put it in triphenyl tetrazolium chloride. The colorless triphenyl tetrazolium chloride gets converted into pinkish reddish color dye known as triphenyl formazan. So the seeds that are viable, okay, the seeds that are viable, they turn pinkish in color, but the seeds that are not, they do not. Prajwal, I do not understand your question, beta. If you can explain it again. Okay, is this clear to everybody? Is this clear to everybody? आगे बढ़े फिर चलो. Now, why are seeds important? Why are seeds important? Yes, Ravi, you can use them. You can use them. Prajwal, what is the meaning of viability? Beta, viability, abhi itni baat explain kiya. Viability is the ability of seed to germinate. The ability of seed to germinate over a prolonged period of time. Okay, that is the meaning of viability. So, abhi let's say मेरे हाथ में एक fresh seed आया. If it can grow after 1 week also, I will say that its viability period is 1 week. If it can germinate after 2 weeks, I will say that its viability period is 2 weeks. If it can grow after 1 year, I will say that its viability period is 1 year. Right? So that is the meaning of viability. Now, why are seeds important? What is the importance of seed? Very important from board's point of view. Okay. So, because they can ask you, write a short note on importance of seeds. So why are seeds important? So, reproductive success such as pollination and fertilization are independent of water. Seed formation is more dependable. Seed formation is more dependable, right? So what happens is, since your what happened? Okay, Naren, beta, dormancy is the period during which the dormancy is the period during which the seed is not very active, in which it is conserving its energy, waiting for the right period of time. Waiting for the right period of time. Okay? That is what your dormancy period is. Okay, then the seed drastically reduces its activity level because the conditions are not right outside. Okay? And Nivedita, just check your internet connection once because beta, nobody else is complaining about that. Okay, so seed formation is much more dependable. Seed formation is much more dependable. Okay, and seeds have better adaptive strategy for dispersal to new habitats and help the species to colonize in other areas, right? So seeds have very interesting methods of getting dispersed to new habitats. For example, some seeds, how do they get dispersed? So what happens is when the birds come and the birds eat the fruit, they are obviously engulf the seeds also. So then the bird flies away to a different location. And when the bird takes a dump, that is when the bird shits, okay, the poop of the bird contains the seed. And that is how, and what happens is, then wherever the poop of the bird lands, the seed can then germinate and give rise to a new plant. So the seeds have very inventive strategy to get dispersed into new habitats and allow the species to colonize other areas. Okay? Okay. Now, what is another advantage of seed? They have sufficient food reserves. So young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesis on their own, right? So since there is cotyledon, in some cases there is remnant endosperm also. So they contain reserve food material which gives the nourishment to the seedling until they are capable of photosynthesis. So that is another advantage of seed, that seeds contain food reserves in the form of cotyledon or in some cases endosperm also. So they give nourishment to the seedlings until they can undergo your photosynthesis. No, Ravi, usually they do not, because the seeds are covered by a hard coat, right? Testa and tegmen, right? So the seed coat ensures that the seed does not get destroyed inside the intestine of the bird. Chetan, repeat the first point. Kishore, repeat the first point. But the first point says what? Seed formation is much more dependable. Okay. The reason for that is very few plants, very few angiosperms depend on your water and abiotic means for pollination, right? And pollination by a biotic means is much more dependable. Okay, so seed formation is much more likely to take place because those means of pollination are much more dependable than your abiotic means, because in that case it is non-directional, so it can spread anywhere. So since most of the angiosperms, they depend on biotic means of pollination, so seed formation is much more dependable. That is what the first point is. Okay, so those are the three advantages or three importance of seeds. There are three more. Okay, so what are more importance of seeds? So the hard seed coat provides protection to the young embryo. The young embryo is not exposed, and it is covered by your seed coat, Okay, now being products of sexual reproduction, they generate new genetic combinations leading to variation. Obviously, since seeds are a result of fusion of gametes from two different organisms, usually they lead to more variations because of new genetic combinations. So, and we know that variations are important for any species to continue. So that is another very important function of seeds. Now, last importance is dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for storage of seeds, which can be used as food throughout the year and also to raise crop in the next season. What does the last point? देखो, last point क्या बोल रहा है? Because the seed can undergo dormancy, so seed का dual function हो जाता है. You can eat it, right? You can eat it, and when the next season comes, you can plant the same seed again. Isn't that what we do with wheat? We have the wheat seed, we grind it, we make flour out of it, we make chapatis, we eat it. But when the next season comes of wheat sowing, we take the same seeds and we put them in the ground. So that is what the last point means, that the seeds are capable of undergoing dormancy. You can not only eat them, but you can also store them so that you can regrow them when the right season comes. Okay? Are these three advantages or importance of seeds clear to everybody? So what is the first point in this slide says? That the seed coat provides protection to the young embryo. Okay? Obviously, because there's a tough seed coat, testa and tegmen are present. Then, since they are product of sexual reproduction, they contain more variations. And we know that variations are important. Last, dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds. Allows us to not only eat them, but also store them till the next season comes. Right? We know that you cannot grow wheat throughout the year. Wheat has particular season. Now, if the wheat seeds could not undergo dormancy, तो तुम next season के लिए बीज कहाँ से लाते भाई? There is a reason why you can grow wheat next season, because the dormancy period of the wheat seed exists. If the wheat seeds were not capable of dormancy, that means you cannot keep them till the next season. फिर तो problem हो जाएगा. फिर तुम next season wheat कैसे grow करोगे? That is what the last point means. I hope Sanjana, the last point is clear to you. Okay? So those are the importance of seeds. And on that note, I will wrap up today's class. Just give me a quick minute. Just give me a quick feedback, then you guys can run here. So for the first time in the history of this class, I have finished what I set out with. Okay, that is in time. Okay, so thank you very much for your patience. I really appreciate it. I hope that you understood today's class. I hope that you liked today's class. I hope that all the extra information that I served, okay, along with your general textbook stuff, I hope that is, informative. I hope that you guys will remember that. You can show off in front of your friends, who do not know about such stuff. You can tell them, देखो textbook में गलत दिया है. That is not 10,000 years old. Actually, it is only a few hundred years old, right? But they did some mistake. Okay, so on that note, thank you very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Please take care, everybody. I'll be back hopefully soon. Nothing goes wrong. Okay, and take care. Bye bye.